JYP, the CEO of JYP Entertainment and one of the most known K-pop figures today. When he did a presentation at Demo Lab 11 by Spark Labs, he was there to introduce his new vision of his company called JYP 2.0. Now make no mistake, he was there at Demo Lab 11 to pitch his company to potential investors and non-K-pop fans and to strengthen his brand at the event. Yet JYP 2.0 also showed us K-pop fans how JYP Entertainment plans to revamp the K-pop industry in the near future. So here's what I think JYP 2.0 is just a genius plan and how it will keep the company among the K-pop elite. So during the 24-minute-ish presentation, JYP was at the forefront of the company. His speech represented one of the few times he would go out and speak, in fluent English no less. And if you guys haven't seen it yet, I highly suggest that you guys watch JYP 2.0, and I'll leave a link in the description below. It's a really fascinating take on JYP's approach to how the K-pop industry will evolve in the next couple of years. So in this video, I'm gonna summarize JYP 2.0 as best I could and give my own take on how it's gonna revitalize the K-pop industry. So here's his 4 main points during the presentation: company and company, globalization by localization, JYP Music Factory, and creativeness from happiness. Let's break down each point, and I'll add my commentary as we go. So the first point is company by company. Now in pretty much all K-pop companies, you have a whole bunch of groups. We'll say 10 groups. And for all of these groups, you have one team, which consists of, say, a PR team, a marketing advertising team, a music production team, and so forth. And you can imagine that one team will just quickly be overworked and overburdened if they have to handle all 10 groups of that K-pop label. So JYP quickly noticed this, and he noticed that his music production was slowing down. Like there was a bottleneck because in his company, like pretty much all other K-pop companies, they had just one team to handle all of the K-pop labels groups. So JYP is like, you know what? We're gonna test this out and I wanna see if I can streamline this process. So he made this thing called a task force, which is basically saying it's a team just for one group. That one group would be Twice. He would just have this one team, and in this one team again would just be, a PR group, a advertising group, a choreography group, etc., just dedicated to Twice. And in turn, Twice became one of the most popular girl groups, exploding in 2016, 2017, and so far in 2018. So since JYP's grand experiment of his task force succeeded so well with Twice, he's like, you know what? Let's expand this to the entire JYP roster. So he has 4 task groups or teams of individual groups. And they are, of course, Twice, GOT7, Stray Kids, and Day 6. And now it just makes everything more streamlined and the music production a lot faster. It's really exciting to see where JYP takes this because I think it's a really cool idea. Now the second point is globalization by localization. And what JYP means by this is it's basically taking this foreign talent, non-Korean talent, and putting him into major K-pop groups. And his biggest example was Nichkhun from 2PM. And with Nichkhun, he's Thai American, so he can pull from the Thai audience, the English audience, and the Korean audience. And this is what JYP envisioned. He envisioned having his stars being multi-talented and multilingual, so he can hit other countries and have no problem with the language or culture. And you'll see this with acts like Gia and Faye from Miss A, as well as Sana, Mina, Momo, and Chewie from Twice. Now JYP 2.0 plans to push this foreign concept even further. He spent around 2 or so months in China, like I guess in this van as he explains it in his presentation, scouting the best Chinese talent. And when he found his Chinese talent, he made a boy group called Boy Story. And I believe the ages of the kids are around 11 to 14, with the average age being 13. And JYP China, as well as Chinese giant Tencent, is collaborating on Boy Story and seeing if they can capture the Chinese market with a K-pop-ish Chinese group. And if JYP China even captures a fraction of the Chinese music market, that's just huge, as there's what, 1.4, 1.5 billion people in China. That's pretty insane. JYP also plans to capture the Japanese market, as they're gonna make a Japanese female group that's gonna debut either next year or more realistically in 2020. And JYP pretty much explains it as the Japanese Twice. And with the advent of Produce 48 doing so well recently, that perhaps a K-pop-ish Japanese group will do really well. So I can definitely see K-pop moving even further into the getting foreign talent to major K-pop bands, as JYP isn't the only ones that do this. YG definitely does this, as well as SM, and a slew of other K-pop labels. The next one is the JYP Music Factory. So the JYP Entertainment headquarters is relocating to a much bigger studio. And this is for several reasons. One reason, of course, is because you just want to have more breathing room. You just want to have your space. You don't want to have people sitting on each other's laps. The second reason is the JYP Music Factory aspect, where this new JYP studio will house a lot of music production. Among this music production includes 9 dance studios, 18 vocal rooms, 7 producing rooms, 11 recording rooms, and 2 mixing rooms. And as I mentioned earlier, this removes the bottleneck of music production, as there'll always be enough dance rooms or mixing rooms or producing rooms for their artists to use. Furthermore, JYP hired around 30 new producers to produce music. So JYP doesn't have to be hands-on as he was in the past of creating music and choreography for each of his groups. We'll talk about that aspect a little bit later. And the fourth one is creativeness from happiness. Now, the best, most innovative ideas usually comes from the people that are well-rested and happy. As JYP says, if my employees are tired or exhausted, how can they come up with great ideas? I don't believe working hours gives you results. JYP's thinking is that he needs great ideas, brilliant ideas, to make awesome songs and choreography. Artists and staff do that when, well, they're about to just pass out. Well, they can't. And to further hit this home, if you're working right now, and you're just overly exhausted and tired, or just working like a 13 to 15 hour shift, or whatever hellish schedule that you have, by the time your workday is almost over, you really aren't productive. You really just don't care at work anymore. You just want to go home. Same thing with the K-pop industry in general, where if you have overly worked idols and or production staff, they're just not going to work at 100%, let alone even 50%. Now, JYP is just one company that's going to adhere to the more work-life balance in Korea. After all, there's a new law in Korea that's being passed that is pretty much going to say you have to work less than 52 hours a week at work. And I know that's crazy because in Western society, it's about 40 hours for a normal work week. How the law is going to work is that the larger companies, say like LG or Samsung, is going to adhere to this law first, and then it's going to go down to the smaller companies, and I don't believe I'm calling JYP a smaller company because that's what he said at the presentation, but it's going to come down to the smaller companies like JYP that have to adhere to this rule after. Now, from a personal example, I can tell you that Korean work culture is no joke. I remember working in Korean corporate. As a foreigner, yeah, I did get a bit more leeway because I'm not Korean, so they let something slide. But I do remember a lot of my Korean coworkers, as well as myself, we couldn't leave until a boss left, even if it was past your work shift. So say you work from 9 to 6, and your boss, for whatever reason, is still there at 6. Korean work culture says that you can't leave even though it's past your work shift. So if your boss stays there till 9 p.m. and leaves, you can't leave until 9:01. I know it sounds really crazy, but that's just Korean work culture. And I hope that changes. I hope, between JYP 2.0 and then the new Korean work laws, that there's more of a work-life balance, as Korea is one of the most overworked countries in the world. And on a related note to overwork, I feel that JYP 2.0, as well as the Korean work laws, are starting to address mental illness and depression. And I feel that if you do overwork so much and you get so stressed at work that it could lead possibly to depression and mental illness. And in Korea, the general thought, if you have mental illness, is get over it. It's kind of taboo to see a shrink or psychologist because you're overly depressed in Korea. You need laws, as well as a mogul like JYP, to set the example, to say that it's okay to live life outside of work. Another big thing is that the JYP cafeteria inside the new studio is going to have healthier organic food. And I believe JYP said it costs around $1.5 million a year to provide organic food to his staff and idols. And he said it's worth it because, again, he's going with that healthy lifestyle and just that well-being of his employees, and happy employees and happy singers equal brilliant new ideas. So there you go. That's my recap on the JYP 2.0 4 main points. Now the next couple of points are more my personal take and some of the additional topics I pulled from his presentation.
Now we gotta talk about JYP's transparency in opening. It's quite refreshing, and I feel like fans like it when a company like JYP, what's gonna be their plan to do in the future? Most often, K-pop companies act in total secrecy as their policies come out of seemingly nowhere. But with JYP, by him doing a presentation, it tells JYP fans fans that he's transparent, and people like it when you keep it real with them. In turn, this builds trust between the company and its fans, the people who keep JYP, his staff, and his groups all in business.
Now, my next point is that physical sales are greater than digital sales. And JYP says this himself by saying with digital sales, people will sometimes buy the song because they like good music, but really don't know who the artist is or is not really a fan of the artist. And this is, again, paraphrased. But if you have like physical album sales, those people that buy those albums are pretty much fans of that group or singer. And album sales themselves cost more. And not only that, but album sales directly lead to concert sales. And that's where a lot of the idols make their big money. And this is one big reason why Twice is so successful, because they have a large number of physical sales, as well as if you go to nearby Japan, and it explains why Japan is still the second largest music market in the world and why it's insanely profitable, because their market depends so much on physical music sales. The next one is that JYP wants to be more hands-off with JYP Entertainment. And it's the dream of every business owner to have your company running smoothly. And JYP for the last several years has been trying to do that. As I mentioned earlier, he's not really involved in music production as he was in the 2000s, where he had to pretty much write songs for the Wonder Girls, Rain, 2PM, and all their hit songs and choreography. JYP pretty much had more than this imprint on it. He pretty much had everything in it. But now maybe JYP wants to be more of the face of the organization, or maybe he wants to do his solo career more. I don't know. The next point is you better know a second language if you're going to be a K-pop star. And this goes without saying because as JYP mentioned earlier with his company, that he's looking for people that are not just Korean, that comes from another Asian country, preferably, that knows a second or even third language. And the next one is that JYP is the face of JYP Entertainment. And now with his fluent English and his charisma and stage presence, as well as just his company having his name on it, it's no wonder that he's the face of the company during presentations. And I noticed that he used a lot of we, and that's a really cool thing in business talk, saying that it's not just him. JYP Entertainment is bigger than just JYP himself. And he actually admitted at first that he doesn't really want to do these trade shows or presentations because he wanted to make JYP more stable. But with the huge recent success of his artists, that it's a lot more stable now. And I feel he needed to find new investors to influx new money into his company. There's a lot of untapped resources, untapped audience within both investors and non-K-pop fans that JYP sees and wants to reach out to him, being that new face and going to more presentations.
Now we gotta talk about how JYP became the top valued K-pop company. It's been a while since JYP was regarded being on top. Not since the Wonder Girls and Rain were in their prime, and 2PM was tearing up the charts, that JYP was actually seen as having the hottest acts, nor being valued higher than his rivals. Until now. As of August 2018, his company overtook both SM and YG Entertainments to become the top valued K-pop company. Now many will point out this is due to the explosion of Twice's breakout and growth as the new nation's girl group, as well as fellow popular acts GOT7 and the star power of Suzy. And they would be right, but a much less popular answer is the streamlining changes in JYP. Now I know, making policies are definitely not the most sexy nor highlighted moves, but they played such a huge part in JYP's success. Now, as aforementioned earlier, with JYP expanding into China with Boy Story, expanding into Japan with Twice, as well with a new Japanese female group, and keeping his groups popular in Korea, things couldn't be better for JYP.
So wrapping it up, with JYP 2.0, it's apparent that JYP is definitely looking to the near future with his K-pop changes. From addressing mental illness, overwork, acquiring foreign talent, it just shows that JYP isn't afraid to try new things and is stepping outside the box in a lot of cases. His changes, I feel, will keep his company among the big three in the K-pop industry and keep it on top for a long time. So what do you guys think about JYP 2.0 and his future on K-pop? I'd love to know your comments in the comments below. And you guys know the spiel. If you guys want to hear my adventures on K-pop journalism, how you can possibly break into K-pop journalism and just real talk on K-pop, then please sign up for my email list and download that free ebook below. And with that being said, I'm off to listen to some more K-pop, but I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy, guys.